Chapter 1 Ash beneath the suns of Tatooine 9, the dust. A storm is born. There is a silence beneath the suns that screams. Two great fires burn in the sky, merciless and eternal, bleaching the bones of the sand and boiling the breath from stone. In the vastness of the dune sea, nothing grows, and yet, in the shadow of the moisture farms and scrap heaps, something ancient stirs, something watching, waiting, something the Jedi do not speak of and the Sith dare not name in the slave. Quarters of Mos Espa, a boy is born beneath no name but his mother's breath. Anakin, he has no father, no origin but the sand and the sky. He laughs like other children, and yet the Force recoils and pulses around him, as if unsure whether to embrace or destroy. He dreams of stars, but lives in chains. His mother Shmi tends to him with trembling strength. Her eyes are quiet, full of storms. She knows something others do not. She has heard whispers at night, dreams that are not hers, voices that speak through the walls of reality. They speak of a fracture. The Jedi will one day call it prophecy. The Sith will call it opportunity. But the Force does not name it. The Force only shudders. In his sleep, the boy sees a temple burning, not yet built, not yet fallen, and hears the voice of something that speaks through time. 1,000 masks, 1,000 faces, some weeping, some screaming. He does not understand, but he remembers, and when he awakens, the droids malfunction around him. He speaks to machines, and they obey, though he has never studied. He moves things without touch, though no one has taught him. He knows what is coming before it arrives. And he builds, not for profit, but to reach beyond, to escape, a padracer, a protocol droid. A dream that the others call it luck. But Shmi knows better. In the marrow of her bones, she knows what the Force whispered when she carried him, that he was not a gift. He was a summoning far above. In polished halls on Coruscant and chambers of unspoken tradition, the Jedi do not yet sense him. Their vision, once clear, is clouded now by something ancient and crawling. The dark side rises slowly, not as a wave, but as rot beneath the roots. And the Council sits in peace, blind to the fact that peace has already died. But the currents of the Force cannot be stilled, and so it guides them, not gently, not lovingly, but with cruel necessity, toward the edge of the outer rim. Naboo is threatened. A blockade tightens. A queen flees. And among those sent to protect her is one who walks the will of the Force without truly understanding it. Qui-Gon Jinn. He is not like the others. He questions, he listens, he disobeys. The Council distrusts him, for he serves not their laws, but something deeper, something older. He is not a master by title, but he is a master of what they have forgotten. And when he steps onto the sands of Tatooine, the storm begins. He meets the boy. He watches him race, watches him fly, watches him risk everything with a grin and a heartbeat full of thunder. And beneath it all, Qui-Gon feels it, the trembling of the Force around this child, not like ripples, like cracks, as if something ancient, something final, is trying to be born. He speaks to the mother. She tells him what she dares not tell others. There was no father. There was no union. There was only a moment, and then life. A creation.qui-gon listens, and he remembers words lost to time. A chosen one shall come, born of no father, conceived by the midichlorians, destined to bring balance to the Force. But prophecy is a broken mirror. It does not show the future. It shows the wish. and wishes are dangerous things. The Jedi test the boy. Blood is drawn, a number is read. 20,000. Higher than Master Yoda. Higher than any known Jedi in the archives. He is taken to Coruscant. The temple looms before him, tall and blinding, and yet colder than the dunes. The council sits in silence. They ask questions, but they do not listen. They do not feel the storm. They feel the threat. Yoda looks into his mind and sees fear. Mace Windu hears arrogance. Others see attachment. No one sees the truth. The Force has willed him into being. He is not the one to bring peace. He is the one to test it. The council refuses to train him. Qui-Gon defies them. He believes, not in the boy, but in the prophecy. That belief will become his undoing. On Naboo, the Sith return. Darth Maul, blade of shadow and wrath, appears like a curse from a forgotten age. And in the duel of the fates, everything changes. Qui-Gon falls. With his last breath, he commands Obi-Wan to train the boy, and the Jedi, fearing what the boy might become, agree not in hope, but in desperation. And so, the boy leaves his mother. Behind, he turns from the woman who gave him life. He does not know it yet, but it will break him. It will fester. He boards the ship that will carry him to the stars. He looks back only once. Shmi smiles, but her heart cracks, quietly, like stone, under pressure. She does not know she will die alone. She does not know that her son, born to save the galaxy, will one day destroy it. But the Force knows, and the suns do not set. They only burn. Chapter 2. The Phantom found, and the blood of the chosen he is found not in light, but in shadow. The corridors of the Jedi Temple hum with quiet judgment. The walls, ancient and cold, have witnessed 1,000 generations of knowledge, faith, and fear. But none among them have faced a question such as this. A child born without a father, whose blood sings with a power unseen in centuries. The council's gaze is fractured. Some see a savior, others a harbinger of ruin. And beneath their robes, doubt coils like a serpent, waiting for a moment to strike. Qui-Gon Jinn stands apart, his mind burdened yet resolute. He is a man who walks on the edge of tradition and rebellion. His spirit is neither fully Jedi nor wholly rogue. He feels the tremor in the Force that others deny, a vibration that speaks of destiny and doom intertwined. He approaches the boy again, watching Anakin with eyes that see beyond flesh and bone. The boy's smile is bright, a spark in the shadow of the desert. His laughter echoes across the sand like a promise and a curse. Yet within that laughter, the Force whispers of storms to come. The blood test confirms what Qui-Gon already knows. The midi-chlorians swarm in such number, it breaks the ancient records, more than any Jedi ever known. The boy is unlike any other. He is the first child in countless generations conceived not by union, but by the will of the Force itself. Conception beyond nature. The council convenes in secret, their faces masks of solemnity and fear. Masters debate, some see hope, others see the dark tide rising. Master Yoda speaks cautiously, his voice measured, difficult to see. Always in motion is the future, but the weight of the prophecy presses upon them all. The boy must be trained. Yet many hesitate, for they sense the danger beneath his gift. Fear is the shadow that lingers in their hearts. Fear of power unbridled, of a destiny that may bring destruction rather than salvation. Anakin's fate is sealed when the council reluctantly agrees to his training, but only with strict conditions. He is a threat, and a promise. A blade that may either cut the darkness or become its wielder. Qui-Gon's final defiance comes not from hope alone, but from a conviction born of visions. He sees the boy as the chosen one, the balance between light and shadow. Yet even this belief is tainted by uncertainty, for prophecies are riddles whispered in the dark, their meanings ever shifting like the tides. Before Anakin can be taken into the Order's fold, he turns once more to his mother, Shmi, her face a quiet lament. The boy's departure severs a fragile bond, one that will echo through the years in pain and longing. Shmi's sacrifice is the first sorrow cast upon this path, a wound that will never fully heal, and in the background, the dark shape of the Sith grows ever closer. The galaxy is a chessboard, and the pawns are moving with silent precision. Chapter 3: The Temple of 1,000 Rules. He is trained not with love, but with caution. The temple stands as a monolith to order, its soaring spires reaching into the murky skies of Coruscant, a beacon of light and law in a galaxy unraveling at its edges. Within these walls, the Jedi Order governs not only the minds of its acolytes, but the destiny of the stars themselves. And yet, in its grandeur, it is a cage, a prison built not of stone but of doctrine, fear and silence. Anakin Skywalker steps across its threshold, no longer the child of Tatooine, but a ward of the Order. The air here is thick with cold judgment, and the weight of unyielding expectation. He is not welcomed with warmth, but with wary eyes and clipped words. The Masters see in him a storm they cannot control, a flame that could ignite or consume. Obi-Wan Kenobi, young and faithful, is given charge of the boy. He carries the burden reluctantly, a promise whispered over the dying breath of his master, Qui-Gon Jinn. Obi-Wan's heart is torn between loyalty and doubt, for he knows the shadows that cling to Anakin, though he cannot yet name them. In the training halls, Anakin moves with a speed and ferocity unmatched. His saber strikes with the fury of a tempest, his reflexes sharp as the desert winds that once shaped him. Yet beneath this prowess is a heart unraveled, aching for connection, for belonging. The Jedi code forbids attachment, but the boy's spirit rebels quietly. He is surrounded by faces that teach without kindness, that preach peace but wield fear as their shield. The council watches from afar, their trust fraying like old parchment. They speak of patience and control, yet they offer no guidance to the torment festering within Anakin's soul. Nightmares visit him in the solitude of his quarters, visions of fire consuming all he holds dear, voices of lost mothers, screams muffled by sand. The Force pulses around him like a cage, binding and suffocating. He reaches for power, not to conquer others, but to save what is slipping away. The paradox of his existence gnaws at him, born to bring balance, yet shackled by rules that deny his nature. Every lesson, every reprimand, every denied affection carves deeper the fissures in his being. The Jedi demand stoicism, but the boy's heart beats wildly with forbidden emotions. Among the Masters, whispers circulate. Some fear the prophecy, not because they doubt it, but because it threatens their very foundation. Others believe Anakin is a tool to be shaped, a weapon to be wielded against the coming darkness. But none see the true tempest rising within, in secret moments. Obi-Wan glimpses the boy's pain and wishes he could bridge the gulf that grows between them. Yet the laws bind him as tightly as they bind Anakin. Compassion is a luxury the Order cannot afford. So Obi-Wan trains, corrects, and guards, all while his own doubts swell beneath the surface. Outside the temple's pristine walls, the galaxy stirs. The Clone Wars loom like a gathering storm, a dance of politics and power orchestrated by unseen hands. The Jedi are called to be generals, commanders, yet their hearts remain shackled to ancient dogma, unprepared for the bloodshed to come. Within the silence of meditation chambers and council halls, the Force whispers secrets no master dares to utter aloud. The balance wavers, the prophecy falters, and in the heart of the temple, a boy clenches his fists against a fate he cannot escape. The training is not a nurturing of light, but a tightening of chains. Chapter 4. The war that should never have been. The clone drums begin. The galaxy trembled. A vast and fragile web, stretching across stars and systems, suddenly rent by the distant echoes of war drums no one claimed to hear, but all would soon obey. It was not born of chance, but crafted in shadows where light could not reach. A war that should never have been, forged by deceit and whispered promises of order, in the marble halls of Coruscant, beneath the golden glint of the republics. Hart, the Supreme Chancellor, sat, Palpatine, serene, patient, an ancient serpent cloaked in human guise. His hands rested lightly upon the holoprojector, watching the endless swirl of stars as if they were threads in a tapestry he alone could unravel or weave anew. He whispered to no one, yet the Force trembled in response. Through him flowed currents of dark intent, weaving the strands of fate to his design. He was both architect and executioner, the hidden hand guiding the galaxy toward ruin, and Anakin Skywalker, the boy born from dust and dreams, stood poised on the cusp of destinies. Razor edge. The war crept closer, a shadow stretching to engulf all light. The Jedi, once keepers of peace, now found themselves generals in a conflict they did not seek. The Clone Wars, bred in secrecy and birthed in violence, swept through star systems. Like a plague, clad in identical armor, legions of clone soldiers marched to battles they scarcely understood. Their creation was a secret, a mystery born of lost Sith, alchemy, and Jedi desperation. Anakin, now a knight, bore the weight of command. With restless fire, his saber was quick, his mind sharper than most. Yet beneath the armor of valor, his soul wrestled with storms unseen. The battlefield was no longer a place for honor, but a crucible where innocence burned away, leaving only anger, fear, and hunger. The Jedi Council, once serene and unshakable, now wavered under the weight of war's demand. They sent Anakin forth, to execute their will, yet with unspoken caution. Their voices were heavy with doubt, their trust fraying like worn silk. His closeness to the Chancellor, a bond veiled in secrecy, was a cause for silent concern, though none dared speak it aloud. Among battlefields scattered like scars upon the stars, Anakin's reputation grew. To some, he was a savior, a beacon of hope amid chaos. To others, a harbinger of ruin, a shadow creeping steadily across the light. His victories were hard won, but the cost was measured not only in lives, but in fragments of his own fractured spirit. His heart remained tethered to Padma Madala, a secret flame burning bright amid the cold desolation of war. Their forbidden love, hidden behind veils of political intrigue and sacred Jedi lore, was a fragile defiance against the darkness closing in. But the Force whispered of loss and sacrifice, and Anakin's dreams were haunted by visions of death. His wife, his children, the galaxy consumed by fire. The Sith lurked in the unseen corners of this unfolding tragedy. Darth Tyrannus, once a Jedi, now a shadowy puppet master, orchestrated battles with cold precision. His presence was a stain upon the fabric of the Force, a wound hidden beneath the surface. Palpatine's manipulations deepened, binding Anakin ever tighter with threads of fear and desire. On distant worlds scarred by war, the lines between good and evil blurred. Jedi became warriors, and warriors became monsters. Friendships shattered under the weight of command and betrayal. The galaxy wept, but its cries were drowned in the thunder of blaster fire and the screams of the dying dot. In the temple, the Jedi struggled to maintain order. They taught discipline and control, but the war demanded blood and decisiveness. The code they revered felt brittle, worn thin by the endless march of soldiers and the shadows creeping into their ranks. Anakin's path darkened with every choice made in the name of peace. He sought power not to dominate but to protect, to save Padmé, to end the war, to silence the nightmares clawing at his mind. Yet the more he grasped, the more he slipped into the abyss. Palpatine's voice was a constant murmur in his ear, a bomb and a poison. Fear is the path to the dark. Sighed, the Chancellor said, yet he offered power to conquer that fear. The lesson was cruel and twisted, wrapped in honeyed words and hidden threats. The Jedi watched, powerless to stop the slow unraveling. Their faith, once ironclad, began to fracture beneath the weight of deceit. They were soldiers now, bound to a war they neither started nor fully understood. The Clone Wars raged a cataclysm not only of armies, but of hearts and souls. It was a war that should never have been, birthed in shadow and destined to consume the light. And in the midst of the storm, Anakin Skywalker stood alone, the chosen one, the fracture in the Force poised on the edge of oblivion. Chapter 5. The wound of Naboo, the bond of Shadow's love is forbidden, so it festers. The twin suns that once scorched the sands of Tatooine now set behind the shining towers of Naboo, yet the light that bathes this world is far from pure. In the courts and corridors of power, beneath the gilded facades and polished marble, a darker truth lurks, one woven from secrets, silences, and the fragile bonds that dare not be named. Anakin Skywalker, Knight of the Jedi Order, walks a path not prescribed by the temple's ancient code. The love that blossoms between him and Padmé Amidala is a fragile flame burning in the depths of shadow, a union born of stolen moments and whispered promises. Yet this flame, bright and fierce, is also a wound, a festering breach in the fortress of discipline the Jedi so desperately cling to. Love, the Jedi teach, is a distraction, a snare that leads to attachment, fear, and ultimately, the dark side. Yet no doctrine can fully cage the heart's deepest hunger. Anakin's soul aches with a longing that defies logic, that defies law. It is a hunger for connection, for belonging, for a peace beyond the reach of saber and meditation. Padmé, once queen and now senator, embodies both the hope and tragedy of the Republic. Her strength and grace conceal the weight of a galaxy in turmoil. To the world, she is a symbol of diplomacy and resilience. To Anakin, she is the anchor in a sea of chaos, the whispered lullaby in dreams haunted by fire and loss. Their love is a secret carved from shadows, shared glances in the halls of the Senate, quiet words exchanged beneath the watchful gaze of the stars. It is a rebellion against the order that forbids it, a defiance born not of malice but of desperate hope. Yet the Force, ever watchful and unyielding, speaks in visions darker than night. Anakin's dreams are filled with images of death and despair, Pam's face pale and still, her breath fading like the last light of a dying star. These visions gnaw at him, Unraveling the threads of his resolve, he seeks answers where none can be found, turning to the very darkness the Jedi fear. The Sith teachings whispered to him by Palpatine take root, promising power beyond imagination, the ability to save those he loves from the grasp of death itself. It is a promise soaked in shadows, a bargain that demands a price he does not yet see. Within the Jedi Council, concern grows. The secrecy surrounding Anakin and Padme is a blight upon the Order's integrity. Masters speak in hushed tones of the danger his attachments pose, of the risk that his passion will consume him. Yet Obi-Wan Kenobi, bound by loyalty and love, remains silent, torn between his duty and his bond to his apprentice. The war around them rages unabated, but within Anakin's heart, a more perilous battle unfolds, the clash between duty and desire, between light and shadow. His every decision is a step along a razor's edge, each moment bringing him closer to a fate he cannot yet comprehend. Padme, too, is caught in this web of secrecy and sacrifice. Her own heart is torn between love and duty, between hope for peace and the realities of war. She hides her pain behind a mask of composure, even as the galaxy crumbles around them. Their love, forbidden and fragile, becomes a crucible. It is a bond that could heal or shatter, that could save or doom. And in the quiet moments before dawn, as the stars fade and the suns rise, the Force whispers a warning. Love that festers in shadow invites the darkness to grow. Chapter 6. The Eye of the Sith opens. The serpent coils around the heart. In the corridors where shadows weave and whisper, the true nature of power reveals itself not as light, but as a hunger that claws relentlessly from within. The dark side is no mere force. It is a tempest, a poison, a serpent coiling quietly around the heart, tightening its grip with every breath, every secret, every desperate choice. Anakin Skywalker, once the hopeful child of Tatooine, now stands on a precipice shaped by fear and longing. The war has aged him beyond his years. The battles he has fought are etched deep into his flesh and soul, yet his greatest fight rages unseen, in the silence where hope battles despair, where love contends with the shadow. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, the weaver of destiny's threads, extends his hand not as ruler, but as mentor. He is a master of patience, speaking in tones soft and seductive, weaving tales that drip with half-truths and dangerous promises. To the galaxy, he is a beacon of stability. To Anakin, he is a guide through the storm. Within secret chambers, beneath the marble floors of the Senate, Palpatine reveals a truth the Jedi hide, the ancient legend of Darth Plagueis, the Sith who mastered life and death. His voice is a whisper, a lure. There is power beyond the Jedi's reach, power to save those we love from the grasp of the void. The seed is planted. Anakin listens, caught between disbelief and desire. The visions of Padme's death haunt him still. His heart screams for a way to change the inevitable. Palpatine's words promise salvation, but at a cost hidden in shadow. The Jedi, blind to this corruption unfolding within their ranks, continue to bind Anakin with rules and warnings. They see only a gifted knight growing reckless, a soul torn by attachments forbidden by their code. They suspect, but cannot perceive the depths of his descent. In quiet moments, Anakin's doubt festers. He wrestles with the whispers of the dark side, tempted by the promise of control over fate itself. The war has taught him that power is survival, and survival demands sacrifice. The eyes of the Sithidon, patient, eternal watch and wait. The galaxy is their chessboard, and Anakin is their chosen piece. His fall is not sudden, but a slow unraveling, a surrender born of love, twisted into fear. Hope turned to desperation. Within the temple's shadows, Obi-Wan Kenobi senses the change. The coldness creeping into the heart of his brother-in. He warns him, pleads with him, but Anakin hears only the walls closing in. The prophecy of the chosen. One is no longer a promise of salvation, but a dark ruthless, meaning shifting as the sands of time slip through mortal fingers, and as the Sith eye opens fully, the galaxy stands on the brink. The serpent tightens its coils. The hour of reckoning draws near. Chapter 7. Nightfall at the Temple Coruscant glimmered beneath a blood-orange dusk, its towers burning like frozen fire against the dying light. The Jedi Temple stood proud among the city's spires, an eternal sanctuary carved from stone and faith. But tonight, its halls would echo with screams. Anakin Skywalker strode through the corridors of the Senate, cloak whipping behind him like a shadow come alive. His heart pounded not with fear, but with something far worse, conviction. His steps led him to the private office of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, though that title was already a lie. The mask had fallen hours ago. There was no Chancellor. There was only the SITH. Inside. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by the soft hum of power. Sidious sat upon his throne not of gold, but of subtlety, a seat draped in deception and death. His face, once kindly, now bore the full horror of truth, a mask of ruin, lips curling into a predator's smile. "You have done well, my apprentice," Sidious hissed, voice slick with venom and triumph. "Windu is dead. The Jedi Council, broken. Now the Order itself must be purged." Anakin lowered his gaze, his soul writhing beneath the weight of what he had done. The image burned in his mind, Mace Windu's body hurling into the void, lightning crawling across his bones like serpents. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like falling. "Podmum, this is for you, only for you." Sidious rose, his shadow stretching like a serpent across the chamber. "You are no longer Anakin Skywalker. That name belongs to a child. A slave of destiny, no." His voice coiled like smoke, curling into Anakin's ears. "You are Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith." The name struck like a blade, cutting away what was left of his old life. Vader, the title was iron, cold and unyielding. Anakin spoke it aloud, tasting the ash. "I am Darth Vader, good." Sidious's smile deepened into a rictus of triumph. "Now go. Leave none alive. The temple must burn." For a heartbeat, the boy within him screamed. The boy who loved pad racing, who dreamed beneath twin suns, who swore to free slaves and save the galaxy. But the man, the broken, burning man, rose above the cry. He knelt before the Dark Lord, voice hollow with oath. "It will be done, my master." The gunship roared across Coruscant's night sky, its engines howling like distant beasts. Clone troopers filled its hold, faceless, obedient, their helmets gleaming under the crimson glow of battle alert. They did not question, they did not hesitate, they served. Anakin Vader stood among them, his presence heavier than durasteel, his breath ragged with fury. The temple's silhouette rose ahead, black against the burning horizon. Every stone of it whispered memories. In the creche lessons, in the archives, the hum of training sabers. Now, those whispers would drown in blood. The gunship landed on the grand steps of the temple. The doors hissed open. Vader descended first, cloak trailing like smoke from a funeral pyre. His saber hung at his side, a sleeping serpent yearning to strike. Master Skywalker. A young knight barely grown from a Padawan ran forward, relief breaking across his face. There are reports of betrayal. What's happening? For a moment, Anakin almost answered with truth, almost told him to run, to flee into the night. But Sidious's words slithered through his skull. Leave none alive. His fingers curled around the hilt. A snap hiss split the air. The blue blade bloomed like a starand fell. Like judgment, the night crumpled without a sound. The temple became a slaughterhouse. Blaster fire screamed through the halls as clones stormed in, their rifles spitting red death. Jedi rose to meet. Their masters, knights, Padawan sabers, flashing like emerald and sapphire lightning. The clash was fury and fire, a storm of betrayal. But for every Jedi who fought, 10 clones surged forward. The weight of inevitability crushed them, and among the chaos moved Vader. He was the blade incarnate, cutting through the temple like a shadow of wrath. His saber carved arcs of azure light, cleaving masters who once praised him, friends who once trusted him. His movements were poetry written in blood fluid, merciless, inevitable. The Force howled through him, a hurricane of hate and sorrow. They begged, they pleaded, Anakin, why? But Anakin was dead. At last, the great doors of the crash loomed before him. Vader hesitated. His breath hitched, though no mask yet. Caged it. Beyond those doors were the younglings, the children who once looked at him with awe, who dreamed of becoming like him. His hands trembled. The doors slid open, tiny faces turned toward him, wide with fear and fragile hope. Master Skywalker, a boy whispered, clutching a training saber too big for his hands. There are too many of them. What do we do? For a heartbeat, time froze. The boy's eyes bright, trusting pierced the armor of hate. They saw the man beneath, the broken hero drowning in shadows. Podmin, forgive me, the saber ignited. The scream began. Night devoured the temple. Flames crawled up its towers, devouring banners of the Jedi Order. Smoke choked the Coruscant sky, blotting out the stars. Streets below filled with whispers of treachery, of slaughter, of the galaxies. Protectors burning like kindling. And in the council chamber, the great seal of the Jedi cracked beneath fire and blaster scars. From the Senate balcony, Sidious watched, hood drawn like a funeral shroud. Lightning flickered across the city, reflected in his dead eyes. The Jedi were ash. His victory was absolute. Once more, he whispered to the night, voice curling with triumph, the Sith will rule the galaxy. And in the smoking ruins of the temple, among bodies still warm, Vader stood a long saber extinguished, breath ragged. The fire painted his face in hell's glow. He felt nothing. He felt everything. The boy was gone. Only the blade remained. Chapter 8, The Iron Breath begins. The world burned. Mustafar was not a planet. It was a wound in the galaxy, a scar of molten rock bleeding rivers of fire. Its skies glowed with volcanic fury, ash drifting like black snow upon the smouldering plains. Amid this inferno, 2 figures faced each other. At the edge of Doom Brothers once, now enemies forever, Anakin Skywalker stood upon a basalt platform, the molten glow painting his features in shades of hell. His eyes, once bright with hope, now burned with sulfur and rage. He gripped his lightsaber as if it were the last truth left to him. Across from him stood Obi-Wan Kenobi, his robes tattered, his face carved with sorrow. The Force quivered between them, stretched thin by betrayal and grief. Obi-Wan spoke first, voice breaking. Anakin, ... You've allowed this Dark Lord to twist your mind until you've become the very thing you swore to destroy. Anakin's lips curled into something that was not a smile. Don't lecture me, Obi-Wan. I see through the lies of the Jedi. I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire. Obi-Wan's heart wrenched at the word. Your new empire. His voice rose with disbelief. Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. The younger man stepped closer, the heat shimmering around him like an aura of wrath. If you're not with me, then you're my enemy. Obi-Wan's gaze hardened, tears threatening to fall but refusing to betray him. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I will do what I must. Blue fire bloomed from his hilt. Anakin's own saber ignited in answer, a sapphire star clashing against its twin. His voice was low, venomous. You will try. The duel erupted. Like a storm breaking chains, lightsabers crashed, spilling sparks that vanished into the rivers of lava below. Every strike was a scream, every parry a plea unspoken. The air shuddered with the hum of energy and the hiss of molten fury. They moved with deadly grace across the refinery platform, blades weaving arcs of death. Obi-Wan fought to disarm, to end without killing. Anakin fought to destroy, to erase the last tether to the life he had abandoned. They leaped 2 chains, 2 pipes, 2 narrow catwalks above oceans of fire. Heat lashed their skin, sweat mingled with blood, but still they fought. Still they clung to the remnants of their shattered bond. I loved you, Anakin, Obi-Wan. Voice cracked as they locked blades, faces inches apart. You were my brother, Anakin roared, his hatred boiling over. I hate you. The Force exploded between them, hurling them apart like leaves before a hurricane. They landed on separate platforms, drifting toward the molten river's edge. The duel surged again, relentless, unending, until at last they scrambled onto the blackened shore. Obi-Wan sprang to higher ground, balancing upon a slope of slag. He held his saber firm, his chest heaving. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. For a heartbeat, there was silence, but for the hiss of burning stone, Anakin's yellowed eyes narrowed. Pride and fury consumed what reason remained. You underestimate my power. Don't try it. He tried. He leaped, a comet of hate. Obi-Wan's blade, flash swift, merciful, absolute. In one stroke, Anakin fell. The scream that tore from his throat was not human. His body slammed against the ashen slope, sliding toward the lava's hungry glow. His legs were gone, severed. His arm a smoking stump. Fire licked at his robes, climbing, devouring. Pain became a sea, and he drowned in it, thrashing, cursing, his voice breaking against the roar of the river. You were the chosen one. Obi-Wan's words were a knife twisted in his own heart. It was said you would destroy the Sith, not join them, bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness. Anakin writhed, his eyes twin suns of hate through the veil of agony. I hate you. Obi-Wan's face crumpled as tears finally fell. You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. He turned away, unable to bear the sight, unable to grant mercy. His saber hissed into silence. With shaking hands, he lifted Anakin's fallen weapon, the last relic of a life now. Ashizand walked away. Behind him, the fire claimed what was left of Skywalker's flesh, but it could not kill his will. Through the smoke and stench of burning flesh, salvation came like a phantom. A dark silhouette emerged from the infernal haze, cloak swirling like a vulture's wings. Darth Sidious knelt beside the ruin that was Anakin Skywalker and smiled. "Lord Vader," he whispered, his voice slick with triumph, "rise." But the broken man could not rise. His breath was a rasp, his body a cage of agony. And so the Emperor summoned his droids, cold and efficient, their claws lifting the shattered body from the brink of death. They bore him to the Obsidian, fortress of medical alchemy, where life and unlife would merge in shadow. There was no healing, only forging. Flesh was stripped, replaced by durasteel. Limbs became machines. Nerves screamed as black plates were sealed upon burned skin. Needles whispered venom into his veins, wiring despair into every pulse. Through it all, Sidious's voice coiled like smoke, promises of vengeance, of power, of an empire eternal. Anakin tried to remember Padme's face, her voice like dawn, but the memory slipped away beneath waves of torment. Pain drowned him, twisted him, remade him. At last, when the final plate locked and the last scream faded, silence fell. Then came the sound, the first breath, a long iron gasp, hollow as a tomb. It was not the breath of life, but of unlife, a requiem drawn through steel lungs. The chamber lights flickered. A shadow loomed from the operating table, armored in black, crowned with a helm like a funeral mask. Sidious stood before him, satisfaction dripping from every syllable. "Lord Vader," he intoned, reverent and cruel, "can you hear me?" The figure moved, slow and ponderous, as if gravity itself feared him. His answer was a voice not born, of flesh but forged in machines deep, resonant, a thunder in a grave. "Yes, my master." The galaxy shuddered. An age of silence began. Chapter 9. The Empire of Ash and the Inquisitors. The galaxy bowed under a new shadow. From the smouldering remains of the Jedi Temple to the farthest rim where starlight fades into void, a single truth spread like poison. The Republic was dead. In its place rose an empire of iron and fire, crowned with the promise of order, but rooted in fear. On the Senate floor, banners changed. Democracy's corpse was draped in the trappings of security. Senators applauded with hollow hands, their cheers trembling under the weight of stormtrooper boots. Palpatine stood before them, robes black as a starless sky, voice gilded with triumph. He spoke of treason, of Jedi betrayal, of salvation through strength, and they believed or pretended to. Few dared doubt him when legions of clones marched in perfect lines beyond the chamber walls, rifles gleaming, helmets blank as judgment. But in the hollow chambers of power, beyond the hollow applause, the true heart of the new order pulsed in secret inside a citadel of shadow, where a man of fire and ruin learned to walk again. Lord Vader moved through corridors of steel, his steps slow but inexorable. Each breath was a wound reopening, each exhale a rasping death knell that echoed through the obsidian halls. He hated the sound, hated the machine that now caged his flesh, yet Sidious told him this was strength, told him pain was the crucible that would burn away weakness, and Vader believed, because to doubt was to drown in memories of a life buried in lava. They had told him Padme was dead. The words had fallen from Sidious's tongue with the chill of a dagger. In your anger, you killed her. It should have broken him. Perhaps it did. But the shards did not scatter, they sharpened. They became blades, each edge honed with rage. Love had failed him. The Jedi had failed him. Mercy, hope, trust or lies. Only power remained, and power would not betray him. So he walked the path Sidious carved, every step dragging him deeper into the abyss. Today, that path led to a hangar vast as a cathedral, where imperial officers stood stiff as statues. Beyond them waited a squadron of black-armored troopers and a figure kneeling in crimson shadow. The figure rose as Vader approached, a woman, tall and lean, her gaze hard as flint. At her belt hung a lightsaber, curved and cruel. "Rise," Vader commanded, his voice a furnace muffled by iron. She obeyed. "You are the first," he said. "The others will learn from your, they will die." Thus were born the Inquisitors, Jedi who had survived the Purge, broken on the wheel of fear and reforged in darkness. Some came willingly, seduced by whispers of power. Others came screaming, dragged from hiding to kneel or perish. Vader trained them with the same mercy Mustafar had shown him none. The weak fell, the strong learned. Each became a blade in the Emperor's fist. And Vader was the hand that guided their strike. The Purge did not end with the temple. It spread like wildfire through the stars. From the glittering spires of Coruscant to the dust-choked backwaters of forgotten moons, the hunt began. Jedi became prey, their sanctuaries desecrated, their names erased from history. And wherever the scent of the Force lingered, Vader followed. He brought ruin in silence, his black silhouette rising from smoke like a demon of myth. Worlds whispered his name with terror, though few lived long enough to speak it twice. On one such world, a jungle sphere, drowned in rain, Vader found his quarry, a master who once sat upon the council, now a fugitive cloaked in mud and despair. They met among the ruins of an ancient shrine, where vines strangled crumbling stone and thunder growled like a beast in the clouds. The Jedi raised his blade, green fire hissing through the storm. His voice broke as he spoke. "Anakin, it's not too late." The mask stared back, its lenses black pits where no mercy lived. "Anakin is dead." Their sabers clashed, and the rain turned to steam. The duel raged across shattered steppes, each strike shaking the bones of the jungle. The Jedi fought with the desperation of a man clinging to a dream already dead. Vader fought with the inevitability of a tomb ceiling shut. In the end, inevitability won. His crimson blade pierced the Master's heart, burning away the last whisper of the old order. When the body fell, Vader stood among the wreckage, rain sizzling on his armor. For a moment, only a moment, he felt something stir, not pity, not grief, something colder. The memory of a boy who once called this man friend, who once believed in light. He crushed the thought like ash beneath his heel. By the time the last Jedi fell, their names were dust. The archives of Coruscant were purged, their statues toppled, their temples ground to rubble. Children born in this age would never know the word Jedi, save as a curse. And in the silence left behind, the Empire rose higher, its banners black as the void. Yet for all his victories, Vader was not free. In the dead of the night cycle, when the corridors of his fortress lay cold and empty, he would stand before the viewport, staring into seas of stars. Beyond the mask, his face was a ruin, but his mind was worse. There in the silence, Padam lived again, her laughter, her touch, her voice whispering of suns and sand. Then Sidious's words would return. Like chains, you killed her. The fire would rise anew, and the galaxy would tremble beneath its weight. And somewhere, far from Imperial reach, the Force stirred. A child cried out upon a desert world, his first breath weaving into the great current like a ripple before the storm. But Vader did not feel it. Not yet. For now, there was only the iron breath, and the empire of ash his hands had built. Chapter 10 Ghosts Among the Stars. The galaxies smoldered in silence. Star systems bent their knees beneath imperial banners, their skies blackened by the shadows of star destroyers. The Jedi were gone, their ashes scattered like whispers across the void. Yet hope, fragile and formless, had not died. It lived in the margins, hidden in exile, waiting like an ember beneath the weight of a mountain. On Coruscant, the Jedi Temple was no more. Its spires, once radiant in the city's endless dawn, lay hollow a carcass draped in banners of the Empire. The great halls echoed not with the hum of sabers or the laughter of younglings, but with the iron cadence of boots and the sterile glow of imperial sigils. Where wisdom once sat, silence reigned. Knowledge was purged, holocrons shattered, archives erased, until the very memory of the Order withered into myth. From this grave of light, the Emperor ruled unchallenged. His voice flowed through the Senate chamber like oil upon water come, absolute, inescapable. He spoke of order, of strength, of security bought through sacrifice. And the galaxy obeyed, because the galaxy feared. Fear was the mortar of his new empire, and its foundation was built upon the bones of heroes. But not all bones had broken, far beyond the core. On a desert world that knew only hunger and wind, a man walked in silence. His robes were worn to threads, his beard greyed before its time. His name had once commanded legions. Now it was a secret buried beneath sand. Obi-Wan Kenobi stood upon the dune sea, the suns sinking into blood-red horizons, and felt the weight of a promise coil around his heart like a serpent in his satchel. Lay the child small, swaddled, unaware of the storm into which he had been born. The infant stirred, a soft sound escaping his lips like the echo of a forgotten song. Obi-Wan's breath hitched. He saw Padmé in the curve of those cheeks, Anakin in the shadow of those eyes. It was almost too much to bear. The homestead rose. From the dunes, like a scar of stone laws, they had called themselves, farmers bound to the soil by chains of toil. Owen stood in the doorway, jaw set like durasteel, his eyes heavy with mistrust. Behind him, Beru hovered, her gaze flickering between fear and pity. "This is Luke," Obi-Wan said, voice rough with sand and grief. "He's your blood. He'll be safe here." Owen's silence was a blade. "Safe. You brought a war to our door. The war will not find him," Obi-Wan vowed. "I will watch over him." From a distance, Beru's arms opened, trembling yet resolute. She gathered the child, cradling him as if to shield him from the galaxy itself. Luke's tiny hand brushed her cheek, and something unspoken passed through the air. A thread of light spun in darkness. Obi-Wan lingered a moment longer, his gaze drinking in the infant's face, etching it into memory like scripture. Then he turned away, his figure swallowed by the crimson dusk. The desert winds carried his name into oblivion. Elsewhere, in a swamp choked with mist and silence, another ghost sought refuge. The shuttle sank into Dagobah's mire like a wounded beast, steam hissing as vines coiled around its hull. From its hatch hobbled a figure small and gnarled, his robe sodden, his breath thin with age and sorrow. Yoda, Grand Master no longer, gazed upon the fetid expanse and found in it a mirror life tangled in decay, thriving in shadows. Here the Emperor's sight would falter. Here the dark side's grasp would weaken. Here he would wait. The hut rose from the swamp like a secret whispered to the earth. Within, Yoda sat before a fire of dying embers, its glow painting his face in shades of ruin. The weight of 9 centuries pressed upon his bones, but heavier still was failure, the vision of a temple in flames, of younglings slain, of Anakin's eyes burning like twin suns before the fall. He closed his own and reached into the currents of the Force. Darkness answered, coiling like smoke, choking the light. Yet amid the black, a spark flickered. Not gone, not yet. Hope, faint as a dying star, endured. On Alderaan, a woman wept. Briha Organa held a child close, her arms a shield of silk and iron. Leia, they named her a blossom born in fire. Bail. Organa stood beside them, his eyes hard with resolve. We'll raise her as our own, he whispered, though he knew blood would one day speak louder than any vow. Outside the palace, the towers of Alderaan gleamed like blades against the firmament, their beauty destined to shatter beneath a sun of fire. But that day was far. For now, hope wore the face of a child. The galaxy turned, slow and merciless. Star destroyers prowled the lanes of commerce, their shadows falling like eclipses upon the worlds below. Dissent festered in whispers, in glances, shared across smoke-stained taverns and encrypted transmissions sent from forgotten moons. Sparks, nothing more but sparks, in time can birth inverse, and in the hidden corners of the Force, threads of destiny wound tighter. 2 children, wind flames divided by night-breathed, their first beneath opposite skies, one beneath suns of fire, the other beneath towers of ice. Neither knew the weight of prophecy upon their shoulders, neither heard the whisper that brushed the void. They will come for you. They will come for him. Obi-Wan stood upon a ridge, the desert sprawling beneath like an ocean of rust. In the distance, the Lars homestead flickered with faint light, a lone ember in the vast dark. He touched the hilt at his belt, a relic of an age buried in ashand, let his gaze linger upon the stars. Somewhere among them, a monster wore his brother's face. Somewhere among them, Anakin Skywalker breathed behind a mask of iron. The wind keened through the rocks, carrying with it a voice that lived only in memory. I hate you. He closed his eyes, and for a moment the words changed. I loved you. Then the wind fell silent, and only the desert remained far above. In the heart of the Imperial Citadel, Vader stood before the void. Stars wheeled beyond the viewport, cold and infinite, their light unable to pierce the black within his soul. His breath rasped a tide that rose and fell, endless, inescapable. Each exhale was a dirge, each inhale a chain. In the reflection on the transparent steel, he saw not the man he was, but the shadow he had become, a helm of obsidian, a visage carved from grief and wrath. Somewhere beyond that reflection, beyond the veil of steel and flesh, a memory laughter on Naboo's meadows, of sunlight caught in Padma's hair, his fists clenched, servos whining, the memory shattered like glass, and only darkness remained. The Emperor's voice crawled through the silence, slick as oil. Lord Vader, it purred, the galaxy is ours. Yet seeds of rebellion take root, they will need pruning. Vader bowed, slow and inexorable, the weight of chains disguised as fealty. It will be done, the breath continued, the iron echo of a man unmade, and in that echo, far across the stars, a child stirred in his cradle as dawn spilled over the desert sands. The Force watched. The Force waited. Chapter 11. The rebellion of Sparks to Empire reigned for a decade, its banners black against the silver of the stars. Star destroyers cut through hyperspace like blades, The Senate, once a forum of debate, became a hollow theater. Senators spoke words laced with fear, their voices drowned by the shadow of the emperor's throne. No law passed without his decree, no system breathed without his consent. Entire worlds were chained in silence. Yet in silence, sparks began to glow. Alderaan became the first ember. In secret chambers beneath its ivory towers, Bail Organa whispered treason. He spoke to those who still believed in the Republic, in its name, but in its promise. Mon Mothma of Chandrila joined him, her voice calm but edged with fire. They met in shadows, their words cloaked behind codes and false transmissions. Freedom, they knew, would demand blood, but without it, the galaxy would drown in chains. Leia Organa grew in these halls of quiet rebellion, though she did not yet know the full measure of the storm. At 16, she spoke in the Senate with a voice of iron hidden behind silk. Senators saw a princess. Few saw the dagger sheathed beneath courtesy. She moved among them like a dancer, her words cloaked in diplomacy, yet striking where needed. Behind her eyes burned defiance, the same fire that once kindled in a mother's heart, long turned to ash. Vader moved through this era like a shadow no light could pierce. He was more myth than man, a silhouette whispered across the outer rim, a terror carved into the bones of smugglers and rebels. When systems stirred with defiance, they found ruin. At his hands, entire cities fell silent in his wake, their ashes staining imperial boots. The Inquisitors hunted Jedi remnants still, though few remained. Vader's task now was broader, crush every whisper of resistance before it became a cry. But whispers have teeth. They carried secrets in their breath, hope in their silence. They spread through spice routes, through encrypted bursts flickering in dead space, through smugglers who traded in courage as much as contraband. Cells formed, small and scattered, each spark ignorant of the others. Yet drawn by the same gravity, rebellion, the Emperor knew. He felt it coiling in the dark like a serpent. And he smiled, for serpents were easy to cut when their heads were few. Vader sensed it too, though not as his master did. For him, the currents of the Force throbbed with something else faint, but insistent, a pulse like a distant drum. He could not name it. He did not try. But when Leia spoke in the Senate, draped in white like a shard of starlight, something stirred behind the mask. Something he crushed before it could rise. In the high chamber of the Imperial Palace, Vader knelt before Sidious. The Emperor's voice slid through the air like a blade through silk. Seeds of treason spread, he said. You will burn them before they bear fruit. Vader's helm dipped, the breath machine hissing. Yes, my master. He turned to leave, but the Emperor's words followed like a claw. There is more. The Force stirs around a girl of Alderaan. Watch her. Vader left in silence, his thoughts a furnace behind steel. A girl of Alderaan, a name without a face, yet the current tugged at him, insistent, pulling threads he had long buried. He tightened his fists until servos groaned. The past was ash. He would not sift through it. Above the galactic core, Coruscant glittered like a jewel caged in steel. But beyond its glow, in shadows where law faltered, men and women armed themselves with lies and courage. A blaster smuggled here, a freighter, stolen there, a fragment of a fleet rising like bones from the grave, sparks in darkness, small, harmless, until they ignite, and they would, for tyranny cannot bind stars forever. Even night must bow to dawn. Chapter 12. The farm boy and the forced wind suns bled across the dune sea, staining the sky in copper and crimson. Heat shimmered on the horizon, waves of dust rolling like a silent tide. Amid the silence, a figure moved, a boy, lean and restless, his eyes fixed on the heavens as though they held an answer he could not name. Luke Skywalker stood upon the rim of his world and dreamed of escape. The Lars homestead crouched low against the desert, domes of white weathered by wind and time. Owen Lars watched the boy from the doorway, his jaw clenched like stone, hard. Years had carved lines into his face, lines deepened by fear he never voiced. Beru moved quietly behind him, her hands busy with tasks that kept grief at bay. They loved the boy in their way, but love could not mend the rift between his hunger for the stars and Owen's dread of what lay beyond. "Another season," Owen said at supper, voice flat as the dust. "One more harvest, then you can talk." About leaving, Luke's spoon clattered against the bowl. "That's what you said last year, and the year before that." His fists balled on the table. "I'm not meant to rot here." Owen's eyes flashed. "You're meant to live. Out. There is death. War. You think I don't know." Beru's voice broke the silence, soft as wind through reeds. "He's not a child anymore, Owen." But Owen only stared into his cup, the weight of secrets pressing his shoulders down. He remembered the man who placed Luke in his arms, a shadow, cloaked in sorrow, and the words that bound him like chains, "Keep him safe." Safety, Owen knew, was not in the stars. It was in hiding. That night, Luke walked beyond the homestead. The desert stretched around him, vast and merciless. Above, the sky burned with constellations, sharp as shattered glass. He looked up and felt the ache again, the pull of something nameless and immense, freedom, destiny. A whisper at the edge of thought. The whisper grew louder days later, carried on smoke. He returned from Anchorhead to find the homestead gutted, walls blackened, the scent of death clinging like oil. Owen and Beru lay where fire had left them, their shapes twisted, their voices forever stilled. Stormtroopers had come, seeking something or someone. Luke's knees buckled, the heat of the sand searing through him like guilt. Everything he knew was ash. Everything but the name that rose like a lifeline in his mind. Ben Kenobi. He found the old man beyond the Jundland wastes, cloaked in shadow and silence. Time had carved Obi-Wan into something smaller, but not weaker. His eyes, deep as forgotten wells, softened when they fell upon the boy. "Hello there," he said, voice frayed yet steady. "You know me," Luke whispered. "I knew your father," Obi-Wan replied. His hand closed over a hilt worn smooth by. "Ghosts and I have something for you." The lightsaber came alive in Luke's hands, a blade of blue fire that hummed like a living thing. Its glow painted the walls of the cave in azure flame. "Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough," Obi-Wan said. Though truth bled through the lie, Luke stared into the light, and something stirred in him, something vast, coiling like a river beneath ice. Questions pressed his tongue, but before they could rise, Obi-Wan's voice cut through. "The Empire killed your aunt and uncle. They will kill more. If you want to stop them, you must learn the ways of the Force." The word fell like thunder. In a silent sky, Force. Luke did not understand it, not yet, but he felt it, a tremor in his bones, a thread tugging at the marrow of his being. He looked at the saber again, and the desert seemed smaller. They left at dawn, the sun spilling molten gold across the sands. The speeder hissed over dunes, bearing them toward Mos Eisley, a hive of scum and shadow where destinies knotted like tangled wires. There, in smoke-stained cantinas, And under the gaze of creatures born from nightmares, Luke's world widened and darkened at once. He met smugglers with grins sharp as blades, a Wookiee whose roar shook rafters, a ship that smelled of oil and legend, and above them, like a storm crawling across the void, the Empire gathered its teeth in orbit. A star destroyer prowled, its hull a dagger of white fire. A single order pulsed through its veins. Find the stolen plans, crush the spark before it becomes flame. Darth Vader stood upon its bridge, his breath sawing through the silence. He gazed into the starfield and felt it a ripple, faint yet undeniable. The Force stirred. It whispered of a presence long thought dead, a thread of light winding through the dark. His hands curled against the railing, metal groaning beneath his grip. "Prepare the fleet," he said, voice low as a grave dot far below, unaware of the shadow. Stretching toward him, Luke Skywalker stepped aboard the Millennium Falcon. The desert fell behind. The stars opened before him, cold and endless. He did not know where the path led. He only knew he could not turn back. The galaxy shifted. The cycle began anew. Chapter 13. The Father's hand extended Cloud City floated. Like a jewel above the gas giant, its spires gleaming against the storm-racked sky. Beneath its polished corridors, shadows gathered. Luke Skywalker strode into them with a saber in hand and vengeance burning in his chest. Han was gone, frozen in carbonite. Leia's warning echoed like a bell of dread. But Luke did not turn. Back he could not. The Dark Lord was waiting. The carbon-freezing chamber was a furnace of steel and smoke, its heart glowing like the mouth of a forge. Steam curled from vents, cloaking the air in veils of grey. From the mist came the sound, slow, mechanical breath that had haunted Luke's dreams since Tatooine. Darth Vader stepped from shadow, his armor gleaming like obsidian carved from night. The red blade ignited with a hiss, staining the vapor crimson. Luke's saber flared blue in answer. The clash was instant light against darkness, sparks cascading. Like molten rain, Vader moved with a calm born of inevitability, each strike deliberate, heavy as a falling star. Luke met him blow for blow, but his strength was raw, his rage untamed. He fought not with mastery but with desperation, and desperation is brittle. "You've learned much," Vader said, voice a deep echo behind the mask, "but you are not a Jedi yet." Luke lunged, blade whistling, and Vader turned it aside with contemptuous ease. Steel groaned under the weight of their battle as they tore through catwalks and shattered gantries. Luke's breath came ragged, sweat mingling with the stench of ozone. Vader drove him back, stroke by stroke, until the jewel spilled into the carbonite chamber's core. The glow painted Luke's face in firelight so young, so fragile beneath the fury. "I'll never join you." Luke spat, his voice fraying at the edges. Vader's reply was a single word. "Obi-Wan has taught you well." Then the storm broke. His blows fell like meteors, hammering Luke into retreat. The boy's footing slipped, his saber ripped from his grasp. Pain flared as a crimson arc slashed across his arm. Metal screamed. Flesh burned. His hand fell into the abyss below, tumbling like a severed truth. Luke staggered, clutching the stump, breath tearing from his lungs. Wind howled through the shaft. Darkness yawned beneath his feet. Vader did not strike again. Instead, he lowered his blade, his voice dropping to something colder, heavier. "There is no escape. Don't make me destroy you." Luke's eyes blazed through tears. "You killed my father." For a moment, silence hung like a blade poised to fall. Then the words came, slow as thunder rolling over graves. "No, I am your father." The galaxy fractured, the chamber tilted. Luke's scream tore the air, raw and unbelieving. "No, that's not true. That's impossible." "Search your feelings," Vader said, stepping closer, the crimson blade casting his shadow long across the void. "You know it to be true." Luke shook his head, the truth, a venom burning through him. The man he swore to kill was not his. Enemy alone, he was his blood, his doom. Vader extended a black-gloved hand, fingers like the talons of fate. "Join me. Together we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy. I will complete your training. With our combined strength, we can overthrow the Emperor. We can rule as father and son." The words coiled around Luke like chains, heavy with temptation. End the war, end the tyranny. Rebuild the galaxy with a single choice. For one heartbeat, the abyss behind him was not as deep as the abyss within. Then, he let go. The wind screamed as he fell, tumbling through shafts of fire and shadow. The Dark Lord's voice chasing him down the chasm. He struck metal, slid, clung to a spar above the void, his body broken but his will unyielding. Pain throbbed with every breath, but still he whispered into the storm, "Ben, help me." Far above, Vader stood alone, his hand still outstretched, the offer lingering like smoke. He did not lower it for a long time. Chapter 14. Between Twin Destinies. The Falcon tore through the clouds, engines screaming against Bespin's winds. Luke dangled beneath the city's underbelly, clinging to the spar with one good hand, blood slicking his sleeve. The storm clawed at him, the void yawning below like a hungry mouth. He closed his eyes and reached into silence. "Ben, help me, Dot." Whisper carried into the current of the Force, rippling through its endless tide. Light answered not as a shout, but as a thread, thin and silver, binding him to something beyond despair. Leia heard it first. A voice without sound, a pulse. Without words, she turned to Chewbacca, urgency igniting her features. "We have to go back." Han's absence was a wound still raw. But this was something else. She did not question how she knew. She only knew. Moments later, the Falcon swept beneath the city's girders, locking onto the beacon of Luke's failing strength. The hatch opened, arms hauled him inside, and the world collapsed into darkness. In the medbay, metal replaced flesh. The hiss of machinery filled the silence, echoing Vader's own breath on another world, another lifetime. Luke stared at the prosthetic as it flexed like a ghost of what was lost. Pain lingered, but deeper than pain was something heavier. Truth. The words rang like iron in his skull. "I am your father." He wanted to hate, to burn that name from his blood. Yet the hate faltered, tangled in questions that clawed at the edges of his mind. Obi-Wan had lied. Yoda had lied. What else was shadow dressed as light? Across the stars, in a chamber veiled in obsidian, Vader stood before the void. His hands clasped behind his back, the mask betraying nothing. But within, the current churned. The boy had chosen death over power, over him. Yet Vader had felt it, the crack, the opening. Fear, anger, a hunger for truth. All the seeds were there. In time, they would grow. "Patience," Sidious whispered. From the throne beyond sight, his voice coiling like smoke through Vader's mind, "He will come to you." But Vader did not answer. He stared at the stars, and for the first time in years, something moved beneath the armor, not rage, but doubt. The falcon drifted in silence, stars spilling like shattered glass beyond its viewport. Leia sat alone, her gaze distant, her thoughts circling like carrion birds. The bond she had felt on Bespin lingered, strange and unspoken, threading her fate to Luke's in ways she could not yet name. When he entered, pale and bandaged, she rose without thinking and took his hand metal, cold and trembling. Words failed them. The void between stars said enough. The galaxy tightened its noose. The rebellion bled ships and soldiers with every passing cycle. The Empire's grip closed like a fist of durasteel. Yet in the shadow of that fist, destinies wound together. A son who refused to fall, a father who could not let go, and a master who watched from the dark, weaving threads toward a throne of death. The game was not over. It had only begun. Chapter 15. The Throne of Shadows. The second Death Star hung above Endor, like an unfinished Skara weapon born from terror, veins of fire crawling through its skeletal frame. Inside, the Emperor waited. Luke Skywalker walked into its heart. Unbound, his saber surrendered, his face calm though shadows stirred behind his eyes. Imperial guards lined the corridor like statues of blood, their pikes lowered in silent threat. Ahead, the throne chamber opened like a wound carved into the station's core, black and vast, windows framing the stars like cold jewels. At its center sat Palpatine, his smile a blade hidden in silk. "So," he whispered, voice dripping with venom and promise, "the son of Skywalker comes to me." Luke did not kneel. "You'll fail, like Vader failed." The Emperor's laughter slithered through the air, sharp and endless. "Oh no, young one, it is you who will fail. Strike me down and your journey to the dark side will be complete." Vader stood beside the throne, silent, the breath machine rasping like a dirge. His gaze lingered on Luke, searching, measuring, remembering. Below, Endor burned. Fleets clashed like titans in the void, star destroyers vomiting fire into seas of wreckage. Rebel cruisers shattered under turbolaser storms. The Falcon darted between hulks of molten steel, hunted by TIE swarms. The shield still held. Time bled away. Above the battle, the Emperor's words dripped poison. "Your fleet is lost. Your friends will die, and you will call me master." Luke's jaw tightened. He felt the storm within, the pull of rage, the hunger to end this with a single stroke. His saber lay on the dais, so close. He reached, then stopped. "Never," he said, voice like tempered steel. The Emperor's smile widened. "Perhaps you are stronger than your father." His eyes slid toward Vader, twin suns drowning in shadow, but he was not always thus. He was once like you. Luke's breath faltered. The mask turned toward him, lenses black as graves. "Father," Luke said, voice breaking against the word. "Leave this. Come with me." For a heartbeat, silence. Then Vader's tone, deep and cold. "It is too late for me." The words struck like chains, but Luke pressed on. "I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate." The Emperor hissed, cloak rippling like a living thing. "Foolish child, it is that hate that makes him strong." Lightning crawled across his fingers, hunger in his eyes. "And it will make you stronger still." Vader moved first. His saber hissed crimson, slashing through the chamber like a wound of light. Luke's blade met it with a flare of blue fire. The duel erupted in a storm of sparks and steel. Vader pressed hard, blows heavy as meteors, each strike fueled by fury and pain. Luke gave ground, the weight of prophecy burning his veins. You cannot hide forever, Vader said, driving him back through the pillars. Your thoughts betray you, sister. The word cut like a knife. So, you have a twin. Luke froze. Vader's tone coiled into a sneer. If you will not turn, perhaps she will. The storm broke inside him. Luke roared and struck, the saber screaming in his hands, each blow a hammer of rage. Vader staggered beneath the onslaught, his defense buckling. With a final surge, Luke's blade carved through black gauntlet and bone. Vader's hand fell, still clutching crimson fire. Luke stood over him, chest heaving, the Emperor's laughter swelling like a tide. Yes, Sidious shrieked. Kill him. Take his place at my side. Luke raised the blade, rage blazing in his eyes, then stopped. The breath rasped from the broken figure at his feet. The mask stared back, hollow, waiting. And in that void, Luke saw himself. Another black helm, another chain, another prison. The saber fell from his hand. Never, he said, voice raw. I am a Jedi, like my father before me. The Emperor's smile curdled into hate. Lightning exploded from his hands, white fire lashing into Luke's flesh. The boy convulsed, screams torn from his throat as bolts ripped through bone and blood. Now, you will die, Sidious hissed, the throne chamber ablaze with wrath. Vader rose, slowly, like a dead thing summoned from the grave. Lightning scorched his armor, pain flaying what little flesh remained, but he moved one step, then another. The Emperor's fury blinded him, his focus locked on Luke writhing beneath the storm. He never saw the shadow rise behind him. Vader seized Sidious with both hands, lifting him like a child. Power clawed at him, lightning carving rivers of agony through steel and scar. Circuits burned, lungs screamed, vision drowned in white fire. But he did not stop. He hurled the Emperor into the abyss. A scream split the void, and darkness swallowed its master whole. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of dying energy. Smoke curled in the air, thick with ozone and death. Vader collapsed, his armor sparking, his breath machine failing. Luke crawled to him, dragging his broken body away from the flames. Father, the word was no longer a plea, but a truth. The mask turned, lenses reflecting firelight. The voice came thin, fractured. Help me, take this mask off. Luke hesitated. But you'll die. Nothing can stop that now. The locks hissed, the helm fell, and beneath it was not a monster, but a man scarred, hollow yet human. Eyes pale as dying suns looked into Luke's and softened. You were right, Anakin whispered. Tell your sister you were right. His breath shuddered once, twice, then stilled. Luke bowed his head as the fire rose, carrying the last shadow of the Sith into the void. Chapter 16. The mask falls. The Death Star burned. Fire crawled through its veins as the Falcon fled into the storm of wreckage. Star Destroyers shattered, their hulks tumbling into the void. The Emperor was dead. The throne was empty. And in the shadows of a hangar, Luke dragged his father's broken body toward the shuttle. The armor was heavy, scorched and split. Sparks crawled along its plates like dying insects. Every step was a battle against time. Behind them, the station groaned, metal shrieking as its bones gave way. Come on, father, Luke whispered. A rasping breath answered, thin and shallow. Luke, help me. Take this mask off. Luke froze. But you'll die. Nothing can stop that now. Hands trembling, Luke unlocked the seals. The mask hissed, falling away like a coffin lid. Beneath it was not a demon, but a man scarred, pale, his eyes soft as fading light. Let me look on you with my own eyes. Luke lowered the mask. For the first time, father and son saw each other unshrouded by lies. No armor, no chains. Just a man who had carried a galaxy on his shoulders and broken beneath its weight. You were right, Anakin whispered, voice a ghost of wind. You were right, about me. His breath faltered, fire dimming behind his gaze. Tell your sister, you were right. Luke's vision blurred, tears burning tracks down his face. I won't leave you, not this time. Anakin's lips curved in something almost like peace. You already have saved me. The last breath came a whisper, a sigh, then nothing. The man who was Darth Vader, who was Anakin Skywalker, lay still. Luke bowed his head. Around them, the Death Star roared as if mourning. Then he rose, lifting the body with arms heavy as grief, and carried his father to the shuttle. The forest of Endor burned with firelight, but this flame was not. Warrit was farewell. The pyre rose against the dark, its sparks spiraling into the night like shattered stars. Luke stood alone, the shadows painting his face in amber and ash. The armor lay upon the wood, black as midnight, now only a shell. Flames licked its edges, devouring the mask, the cape, the machine that had stolen a man from himself. The fire roared, and with it the last shadow of the Sith crumbled into smoke. Above, the stars stretched cold and infinite. The prophecy was fulfilled not through domination, but through compassion. Balance was not forged by the blade, but by the hand that refused to strike. Luke turned from the fire, its glow fading against the laughter of friends, the music of freedom. But in the corner of his sight, a light lingered. 3 figures bathed in silver, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and a man who smiled like dawn breaking after 1,000 years of night. Anakin Skywalker. Luke smiled, and the galaxy seemed, for one fragile moment, at peace. Chapter 17. The Ashes of the Empire. The Empire cracked like glass. One blow had shattered its core yet, shards still cut deep. The second Death Star fell in fire, dragging the Emperor and his dark apprentice into the void. Across the galaxy, broadcasts blared of victory, of freedom. Crowds filled streets, tearing down banners of black and crimson. Star destroyers fled to the rim or turned their guns upon each other. The throne was empty. Power hung in the air like smoke, and men with sharp teeth were already breathing it in. On Coruscant, the statue of Palpatine fell, its face breaking against the Duracrete with a hollow boom. Cheers rose, wild and raw, but fear lingered in every shadow. The Senate chambers stood silent, a hollow shell haunted by years of lies. Who would rule now? Who could hold a galaxy splintered by blood and betrayal? The Rebel Alliance called it a dawn. But dawn brings no peace, only light to see the ruins. Whole sectors lay in famine. Worlds once rich, bled dry by imperial greed, turned upon one another for scraps. The fleets that survived were scattered, leaders divided by pride and ambition, and in the dark, the old hunger stirred, on the fringes of the outer rim. A star destroyer slipped from the wreckage of war, its name scrubbed from every record. In its bowels, officers swore new oaths, colder than before. They spoke not of an emperor, but of an empire reborn sharper, purer, a blade forged from defeat. Among them walked men in black cloaks, carrying secrets like knives. They whispered of hidden fleets, of weapons waiting in the void, of Sith knowledge buried but not dead. The Inquisitors were gone, but others would rise. Shadows have roots, and the soil of war was rich. On Endor the fire died. Luke watched the embers drift into the night, carrying his father's ashes into the stars. He thought it was an ending. It was not. The Force was quiet, but not still. Beneath its silence, something coiled, faint as a breath, patient as time. Balance is never permanent. It bends, it breaks. It waits for the next dreamer. Chapter 18. The Echo Eternal. The war ended, but the galaxy did not rest. Ash drifted where empires once stood, and in that silence, history began its slow repetition. Victory songs faded into whispers of doubt. Who would lead? Who would hold a galaxy stitched from scars? Luke walked alone beneath the trees of Endor, the night alive with celebration behind him. He felt none of it. The Force wrapped around him like mist calm, yet heavy with shadows that refused to die. He had saved his father. He had broken the chain, but chains forge anew in the dark. He closed his eyes and saw the fire again, the mask melting in orange flame, the man beneath it at peace for a breath before vanishing into ash. You were right, Anakin had said. And yet Luke wondered, was he? Or had they only delayed the storm? Far beyond the forest moon, fragments of the Empire slithered into the void. Officers burned insignia, painted new banners in black and crimson. 1,000 warlords carved kingdoms from chaos, and in hidden vaults, Sith holocrons flickered dread light pulsing like an open wound. Secrets endured. Darkness endured, because darkness never dies. The Force stirred. In its endless tide, echoes lingered, whispers of a boy from Tatooine, of choices that unmade worlds, a prophecy fulfilled in blood, yet never truly finished. Balance is not a throne. It is a blade, swaying between hands, forever seeking. One dreamer falls, another will rise, and so the whisper moves on, faint as breath, carrying the memory of a name spoken in fire and shadow. Skywalker.